Hey, kia ora! Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1578. One more time. And this is referring to Never Say Never Again. Oh my gosh, this came out in 1983, in October of 1983. And in June of 1983, Octopussy came out. So you had the two James Bond, one with Eon Productions, which was Octopussy, and one that was not Eon Productions, which was Never Say Never Again, which is why I didn't include it in the 25 Eon Productions run that we just completed yesterday. Yes, I had the tissues ready. And so that's why we're watching it tonight out of sequence with all the other ones, because it doesn't really fit in with all the other ones. But this is a cool movie. I kind of like this movie. It's a complete remake of Thunderball. So Thunderball came out in 1965 with Sean Connery as James Bond at that time, and Kevin McClory, who owned the rights to Thunderball, got the chance to remake it again. And yeah, that was a long legal battle. It actually ended up that in what year was it? I don't think I actually wrote down the year. In the mid-70s, there was a lawsuit with Eon Productions that ended in a ruling that McClory received the sole rights to Spectre and Blofeld, forcing Eon Productions to rewrite or actually remove any references to Spectre and Blofeld in The Spy Who Loved Me that came out in 1977. So since The Spy Who Loved Me, all the way through up until Skyfall, there has been zero reference to Blofeld or Spectre during that entire time. And you're probably thinking, wait, what? Really? Yeah, really. Yeah, you gotta watch it for that. But and then McClory died in 2006, and in 2013, his heirs sold Thunderball rights to Eon Productions, which meant they could now use Spectre and Blofeld again. And in 2015, we had the movie Spectre come out, and that was our first see of Blofeld since. Hang on. Well, The Man with the Golden Gun wasn't really Spectre anyway. That was in 1974. Just trying to think. But you hadn't seen Spectre. Yeah, so Spectre was supposed to be in The Spy Who Loved Me and Blofeld, but that got removed. So that was kind of an interesting thing. But this movie has been under a lot of controversy, a lot of lawsuits between McClory and Eon Productions over the years and everything else. But this was also the first James Bond movie to be officially released in the Soviet Union, and they had a big, massive gala for it in 1990 in Moscow. Now, how did it get it? This is the interesting story. I love this story. So how did Never Say Never Again come about as far as the name goes, the title of the movie? Well, what happened was back in 1971, I think it was, after Diamonds Are Forever, which was released in 1971, Sean Connery vowed he would never again play James Bond. And of course, he ends up in this production that came out in 1983, 12 years later. And his wife just happened to come up with one day and suggest that why don't they name the movie Never Say Never Again, because of her husband's vow to never play James Bond again. And the producers and everything really liked it. And so it was named. And actually in the credits, at the end credits there, you'll actually see it says title, Never Say Never Again by Micheline Connery. So that's a really cool story. I thought that, she came up with the idea of doing that just to rib him, to say, you said never say never, never say never again. So let's see what else we got in here. So basically it's the same storyline as Thunderball from 1965, of course, updated for the times and what was happening and everything else. But due to it not being an Eon Productions movie, there are certain things that are missing from this James Bond movie, like no gun barrel sequence at the beginning, no James Bond tune, no pre-credit sequence. They had actually filmed a pre-sequence, a pre-credit sequence, but never put it in the movie. So instead, what you will see is that there's this whole screen full of 007s that keep coming towards you as the credits are going over it. The theme song is playing. The Never Say Never Again is playing, and they actually go through the 007s into a scene where while the opening credits and the song is playing, Sean Connery's character James Bond is on a training mission, and you get to watch that whole training mission. There's no words spoken until after the credits have run and after the song has played. So that's your opening scene on that one. Sean Connery was actually 52 when he filmed this movie, but he was still 3 years younger than Roger Moore. Let's see. Barbara Carrera is in this movie, and she was actually approached by Eon Productions to be Octopussy. And of course, the movie, the same title, that came out in June of 1983. She turned it down so she could play Fatima Blush in Never Say Never Again. So that was kind of cool. Who else do we see in this? Oh yes, Rowan Atkins is in this movie. Rowan Atkinson. I love this guy to death. I love his comedic. I love his timing and everything else. I've watched all the Blackadder series. I've watched all the Mr. Bean series, everything else that he has done, basically just about everything he's done. And he is, Rowan Atkinson, he actually did, no, I haven't seen Johnny English. I've got to go back and see Johnny English, because that's his spy movie where he's, kind of like a James Bond type character who has a little trouble. But Rowan Atkinson plays Nigel Small Fawcett, who is the Foreign Office representative in the Bahamas. And I've watched this movie a few times, and he is really cool in this movie. And just his bumbling and fumbling and all of that along the way. That was well before Mr. Bean came along. So he's really cool in this movie. Let's see, what other information can I pass? There's not really a lot of information to pass on since we already know the storyline. It's done a little different to the previous one, of course, different times. Kim Basinger plays the Dominique, the sister, in this one. And that's basically it. It's just a remake of that movie from 1965, and of course, completely updated. Yes, there are some changes in there, but basically the storyline is the same. The Americans lose a couple of nuclear warheads, and Sean Connery goes finds them and gets them back and all of that sort of cool stuff. And yes, the jetpack is in there too. Actually, is the jetpack in there? Yeah, I think the jetpack's in there. They had the jetpack in Thunderball. I believe they bring it back in this movie too. I don't know. It's been a year since I've seen it. So this is our one more time we're seeing a James Bond movie, just one more time. And this is the final James Bond movie that we'll be watching this movie fest season. What's happening with James Bond? I don't know. I know that the producer, Eon Productions, turned around and said that they're looking into what they're going to be doing. Are they going to be bringing Bond back? That, of course, be a complete reinvention to bring him more up to date, up to whatever the modern time is these days. So they're just trying to figure out how to, from all the reports I have read, they're just trying to figure out what James Bond is going to look like today, and how are they going, and how they're going to reinvent him to be, the spy of today. So that's going to be interesting to see what they do with that. But it's been going for 60 years. 60 years these movies have been coming out. And like I've said all the way along this whole month, is that I don't know of any other movie franchise that has gone this long, has gone 6 decades, and because of the type of movie it is, you've been able to follow all the fashion trends, all the political stuff that's been happening, all the mechanical car, the changes in the cars. What's the most common car, type of thing. All the technology, you've been able to track that as well. You've also been able to track, the stunts as technology has changed and as things have changed and ideas have developed and all of that over the years. You can see those changes going through the James Bond movie. And I don't know of any other movie franchise out there that can even compete with that. So it's been good in this. Oh, one last little tidbit. If you remember the movie guy, Steven Seagal, he actually trained Sean Connery, did the training for Sean Connery for this movie, to get him back in shape and everything else. And this bit I read about, and I thought, I don't know if I could believe that bit, but it said in there that Steven Seagal said he actually broke Sean Connery's wrist during training, and Sean Connery didn't know it was broken until years later. I'm like, how can you not know your wrist is broken? If it's still working and there's no pain in there, I don't know. But that's what the article was that I read. So take it for what it's worth. But we're out of here. We're going to go watch Never Say Never Again. And then tomorrow night, we'll be bringing you Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Yes, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. We love you. And why are we doing that? Because it's an Ian Fleming novel. That's just that simple. That's all it is. I didn't realize it was actually written by him. I found out that earlier on this month. I thought we're adding that on the end because it's an Ian Fleming novel. It's the only children's novel he ever wrote. He never got to publish it before he passed away because he finished writing it before he passed away, and then he passed away, and so his estate went and published it. Actually, I think it came out the same year that he passed away. So he never got to see his book published, his one and only children's book published, but it got made into a fantastic movie. And if you've never seen Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, it's one of my top musicals. I gotta do a musical month. Yeah, we've got the holidays starting on December 1st for holiday movies. So we need to do a musical month on my favorite musicals, things like Oklahoma and State Fair, Hello Dolly, The Music Man, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. We can put that one in there as well. It qualifies for both. What other movies? Sound of Music. Trying to think what's Cats is in there. Actually got to see that one live. That was awesome. My parents were over and it was my dad's birthday. And so Brad was like, do you think they'll like Cats? I thought, let's give it a go. So he called up. He got tickets. We were picking them up at Will Call. He bought the tickets and that. We went out for dinner on our way to the movies and went to this great deli, had great food. Then went to the theater in DC because we were in Washington. We were living in Northern Virginia at the time. Went into the theater in DC where they were playing Cats, and we were third row from the front on the aisle is where our seats were. So we were in the orchestra there, orchestra center, third row from the front and along. And Brad sat on the aisle. I was next to him, and then Mum and Dad were next to me. And yeah, we were third row seats, and we only got the tickets that day. So we were pretty stoked when we found out where the seats were. We were super stoked about that. But it was a great musical to watch it live and everything else. And so what else could we put on there? What are some of your favorite musicals? Let us know in the comments below what some of your favorite musicals are. And if I haven't already seen them, then we'll add them to the list to have a look at. Because I'm curious. I'm going to try and look at some different movies instead of just my old favorite ones as well. We're going to get some new ones in there. But yeah, we're going to do a musical month. When will I do it? I don't know. But anyway, it's and scrolling across the bottom of the screen, we have come up with a new thing. It's Give the Gift of Family History with our genealogy gift certificates. We have 2 different types to go. Just go to shopyourfamilytreedetective.com and the options. Now, it will be a little funky to get to the website. It will come up with an error, but just give it a few seconds and it then gets into the website. They've got to figure out how to fix that. But we've got everything else in there working, I think. But so go check that out. We even have a Cyber Monday special in there. So go check that out, and we will catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific, where we talk about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Hey, konera.